Coach Thibs also was surprising to some people. Some people, it's not surprising. The Knicks let go of Tom Thibodeau, even after, for the first time in 25 years, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They won, 50-something games. Brunson had a great year. Cat had a great year. Overall, things kind of played out well for the Knicks to get to that point to where they made the East Conference Finals, because they were kind of struggling a little bit at the beginning of the season before they turned it around and figured it out. They didn't do well against teams that had winning records. That's the thing that stood out a lot for a lot of the analysts that talked about the Knicks early on in the season. And of course, you lost game 1 and game 2 at home against the Pacers, who for the most part looked like a better team than the Knicks, if I'm being honest. So would y'all have fired Coach Thibodeau, or would y'all would have kept him?
No, I wouldn't have fired him. I wouldn't have fired him yet. I think if next season occurs, especially with next season, and knowing what's on the table next season, I know we're going to get to a lot of this anyways, but I don't fire him based upon this season alone or whatever they're supposed to be. I think they made it as far as they were going to make it. And they ran into, let's just be honest here, a better team, man, a better coach team. And so they're a better team. And the reason why I'm going to say a better team is because a better coach team is going to win 1 game, maybe 2. But a better team clearly won 4 out of 7, right? 4 out of 5, realistically, 4 out of 6, excuse me. And so Tom Thibodeau does need to learn how to play his players a little bit differently. His mindset is all about defense, and maybe that's, maybe he goes back into that defensive coordinator or defensive coaching place. But there are some names that I think New York needs to go at. Mike Brown is definitely one, and I think Mike Malone is also another name.
I got the betting favorites right here. Who they got as a betting favorites? So from the most likely to least likely, Michael Malone was number 1. Johnny Bryant, who I have no idea who that is, number 2. Jay Wright, the old Villanova coach, number 3. Coach Bud, number 4. Rick Brunson at this point was number 5, but apparently a report came out. Yeah. The players like, nah, we don't like Brunson. So I'm wondering about Jalen Brunson, to be honest, which is weird because he got paid, but he took the lower route. And Candace said that they think need a better number 1 option. Debatable, but Rick Brunson is on this list, but I don't think he'll be the coach. Monty Williams was the next option. Taylor Jenkins is the complete opposite of Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion, because Thibodeau gonna play you 48 minutes. Jenkins gonna play you about 24 minutes if you're a player. John Calipari, Dan Hurley, and the old Knicks coach Jeff Van Gundy. That was the betting order as it stood about 2 hours ago.
I'm gonna pass it to two guys after I say this. Look what Mike, and I'm not saying y'all, ladies and gentlemen of the Knicks organization, look what Mike Malone did with a big that can facilitate your offense and a guard that can score at will, and surround him with some pieces that are very similar to what they did in Denver. And I guarantee you're talking about a dynasty in New York, regardless, and we'll get to the E-Dash story later, regardless of how this is set up later on. Mike Malone in the Eastern Conference can bring you many, many chances to win a championship, being the top of the list. But I'll digress to my brother too.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm happy once you said the better roster and switched it to better coach team won the match. Because do I feel like the Pacers have a better roster than the Knicks? Absolutely not. I would take the Knicks roster 10 out of 10 times, to be honest with you. But I think, we know at this point that Thibs got out coached. So everything that we saw in the Knicks series, in the Knicks and Pacers series, it kind of came into fruition as, somebody like a Jeff Teague would say, hey, Thibs, he's not a X and an O's kind of coach. He's more of like a, defensive, like you said, to get in your face kind of coach. But when you're going against a team like the Pacers, and of course we're going to talk about that in a minute, the one thing that a lot of us overlooked, including myself, and I've said on this podcast, that going into the playoffs, chemistry matters. These dudes been playing with each other for years. And again, we're going to get into the Pacers for a minute, but I say that to say that this is the same thing. To answer your question, Savage, this is where I do disagree with you, Sheik. I think it was time for Thibs to go ahead and get going, because what I compare this to is when Mark Jackson was on the Warriors. And Steve Kerr came in and actually implemented an offense, saw what worked, saw what didn't work. And that's what I give Steve Kerr. He did come in and implement a successful system. somebody like you said, a Mike Malone would be perfect for the system for the fact of you got Karl Anthony Towns, who you will play as center. I don't know why Thibs overthought, having Mitchell Robinson and Cat start at the same time. You didn't do it all season, so why start now? Again, you got our coach and you got in your own way. Somebody like a Mike Malone who's successful winning, who has success with a center like, I ain't gonna say put Jokic and Cat in the same sentence, but as far as spreading the floor and creating offensive opportunities for everybody else, cool. As far as Jamal Murray and Jalen Brunson, same kind of player, to be honest with you. They're gonna go off at any minute, get any second. So again, I think this roster still is the best roster in the Eastern Conference. They got to get the culture right, because if they don't, they just gonna waste a bunch of years of talent and players who can literally win now. Like they were a series and a better coach away from winning this year. So Knicks, the ball literally is in their court for them, for us to be talking about them in the NBA Finals next year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm cool with them firing Coach Thibodeau. I actually respect New York for making that decision, even after making it this far. In reality, Boston, Tatum was hurt. He got hurt. Philadelphia had a surprisingly down year, given, Paul George injury, Joel Embiid injury, which seems to be recurring at this point. But the point is that the Knicks kind of got here, I don't want to say by luck, because they're still a good team, but it helped to have other teams that were injured and they weren't injured compared to like last year. And Thibodeau, I think we've watched Thibodeau long enough since his time with Boston to Chicago to Minnesota to where he is now. We know what he is. He's kind of like, I don't know if y'all know, like Larry Brown, where you get him for like about 4 or 5 years. After a while, it's kind of like, okay, it's time to move on to the next thing. Thibodeau's style, it doesn't last long. It's just kind of how it is with Thibodeau. And he's good at establishing culture. He's a great coach. Right? He's not a bad coach at all. But I think that he's so stubborn in his ways. He's almost 70 years old. He is who he is as a coach. It's kind of like Phil Jackson. Phil gonna run that triangle until the wheels fall off. Bro. Thibodeau gonna run his top 5 players, top 6, 7, until the wheels fall off. He had Mikal Bridges complaining about playing time. Mikal like, hey, chill, I can do it, but let me get a break sometimes, man. And so I do think that Mike Malone honestly makes the most sense. I would say Mike Malone or maybe even Jeff Van Gundy to bring back what New York had. I think Jeff Van Gundy is a similar coach in terms of defensive minded, but he also has been a commentator of the game for several years. So he's seen the game evolve. He knows what it needs. Right. And I think that even him now as a assistant coach, I forget where he's at right now. But even now being on the not the first seat, but the second or third seat, he sees the game from a different perspective. And I think that he can provide that for New York and also appease the New York fans who remember when they made the finals against the San Antonio Spurs, didn't win it, but they made it that far.
Or when he got choked by Latrell.
Or when he got choked by Latrell Sprewell, So, but yeah, I'm cool with the fire, but I don't know if Thibs gonna coach again, man. I don't know what spot makes sense for him as far as like a head coach.
No, you said this, or I saw somewhere about this where he just needs to go to defense, right? And I'm going to make this announcement. We talked about this pre-show of another NFL coach who tried the NFL, tried college, but now he's more of a coordinator, which is Chip Kelly, right? You don't want Chip Kelly to have the reins per se, but a mindset of offense or whatever could be very useful for a team. I think that Tom Thibodeau can provide greatness for a team if he's only speaking about the defensive aspects. If he's not the one that's actually calling the shots, who gets subbed in, who gets subbed out. Yes, that like limit what he has to do in order to maximize what he can do.
I love that that you said it right out of my mouth, Savage. As far as Thibodeau being a coach or established, that's what he does. He's good for a couple years, and then boom, you do need somebody that can come and do the X's and O's. I think he'll be a perfect fit in Memphis, to be honest with you. We've seen him turn up a young MVP and Derrick Rose. You're going to either play or you're going to shut the hell up and we're going to figure this out some other way. I think Memphis needs a coach like this outside of the Isolo, whoever this guy is. So, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Isolo could come and switch the future for Memphis. But I think Thibs, like I said, as far as just reestablishing a culture that, again, we haven't had in Memphis since the grit and grind days, he'd be perfect for us. And we let him go 3 years. We good. We know what we got. And you said, again, Savage, Jay Wright from Villanova was on the list, right?
Yeah.
Because my thing is, if I can win college basketball with these dudes, I can win in the NBA with these dudes. So make sure y'all keep y'all attention on them.
And Jay Wright looked like a New York Knicks coach. Like he'd be with the suits and the tie. He'd be fresh, man.
Jay Wright is just like he sound like a Knicks coach, like just Jay Wright. Jay Wright.
Yeah.